Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and I just got back from the new film, The Raid 2. It takes place directly after the first film, and it reunites the director, editor, and writer, Gareth Evans, with the star and martial arts choreographer, Iko Uwais, and it has all the intensity that I expected from the first film, but it's a little different since they're not just fighting to get through a building, he now has to go undercover. The Raid films, I guess at this point, are definitely a theatrical experience. There's really nothing like watching this film with a group of people and watching the most amazing fight sequences I think I've seen in years. It is just thrilling to watch Iko Uwais do what he does in this film. There's a real physicality to his performance that I can't see from any performer working in film today. I was a little sleepy at the beginning. It had been a long day, and after a while, those sequences just woke me the fuck up. Some of the things he does and some of the fights they go through in this film almost look inhuman. They're so crazy. It just boggles the mind to think that someone actually did that. And the way Gareth Evans choreographs the camera during these action sequences are just amazing. There's a fight sequence in the mud. It looked like an amazing tracking shot. I remember certain crazy tracking shots in The Raid, but some of the tracking shots in this film just try to outdo it, and it kind of does. This clearly was finely well choreographed by someone who really cares about the martial arts, and Iko Uwais and Gareth Evans clearly do and care about making an amazingly thrilling action sequence. And after a while, I had so much adrenaline pumping through my veins, I was like sweating because it was just such a thrilling film. It's so thrilling to watch all the things they're getting away with that I felt like Hollywood films couldn't do. Watching someone like Gareth Evans, who's not just a great martial arts director, but also a great action director. He goes undercover in a prison to make friends with this crime boss's son. He's told he's only going to be there for a couple of months, but it turns out he's there for 2 years. And then he gets out and uses his friendship because he saved the mob boss's son in a giant mud fight that is incredibly impressive and awesome. And then he starts working for the mob and is trying to be an undercover informant that will eventually rat out what's going on, while there's kind of a power struggle between the mob boss and his son and a new gangster who's trying to get in to the game using the son's quest for power to get himself in there. I actually think the plot of The Raid is stronger when you watch it a second time, but when I watched The Raid 2 at the beginning, the plot parts, I was a little sleepier and it was kind of hard to get through those parts, and its dialogue isn't what you're going to see it for and not the reason I saw it, and it wasn't the most interesting parts. And as well choreographed and well thought out and amazingly realized as these sequences are, the story just isn't really up to the par that the action sequences are. In the last one, it worked a lot better. It had that immediate feel to it that I think helped the story and gave it kind of, as an audience, you give it some slack. But in this one, the whole undercover film, it does feel like a not as good Infernal Affairs or, you know, The Departed for you lamer folk. It kind of doesn't matter because the action sequences are so thrilling. After a while, I kind of don't give a shit. Part of me is like, would I like to see Gareth Evans tell a better story like in the first Raid film? But another part of me just wants to see the amazing action sequences. Gareth Evans wrote this film, he directed this film, he edited this film, and some of the sequences are so well plotted out and so well edited. And you have a sequence where the newer gangster sends his kind of minions out, including Hammer Girl and this guy with the baseball bat, and they go out and they kill all these people of the mob boss to start this mob war. And the quick cutting back and forth between these various sequences, it's just amazing. It kind of reminded me a little bit of D.W. Griffith's Intolerance. If D.W. Griffith knew how awesome it was to have a girl with hammers come attack people and beat them to a bloody pulp. And really, that was one of the things I always thought D.W. Griffith was lacking. This film has such an energy to it that if you like action movies, you will love this film. Whenever I see the Raid movies, there's always someone in the theater who went and go, oh, this has a good review, I'll see this foreign film, and then they leave in disgust. And every time I see a Raid movie, there's people who leave in disgust and everyone else is laughing and screaming and just like, oh my god, I can't believe this movie. It's really like a dance film, like Gene Kelly, like Fred Astaire. You really have to show it, not do quick cutting, not do shitty shaky cam to cover up bad fight choreography. When you really work at it, it's an intense, beautiful, physical thing. And in The Raid, it's pumped up to such a degree that it's just insane. Iko Uwais, he is just a revelation with martial arts. He is so good in those sequences. Not the best actor, but in an action sequence, he is an amazing actor. He can really show his pain in certain situations, what he needs to do. When he needs to emote in those scenes, it almost feels like he comes alive more, like he needs to be physical. And with his unique style of martial arts where he just hits those guys so many times, it's like, oh my, aren't you just tired? But he has this energy to it, and there's a sequence later in the film where he just keeps fighting and fighting and fighting. But I really believe he could do that. He is so physically impressive in this film. Film has such a deep history of actors who are very physical, whether it's Buster Keaton or Charlie Chaplin or Jackie Chan or Bruce Lee. They are physical performers. And there's a real artistry to that. I really respect what he's doing because I've seen so many bad action movies with so many bad action sequences, and every sequence in this movie was like some of the best sequences I've seen in modern Hollywood. No one in modern Hollywood is close to what Gareth Evans and Iko Uwais is doing. I'm amazed at this film. Gareth Evans is a great action director at a time we don't really have them. When he moves that camera around in that mud fight sequence, it's so purposeful but looks almost disorganized. It reminds me of how Peter Jackson used Shake Your Cam in his fight sequence, where it looked disorganized but it's totally plotted out and totally planned, and the way the camera moves is very much telling you the story. That sequence is a really important plot point, but as much as it shows you cool martial arts and people's arms getting broken and heads being thrown against cement and everything, it shows you a plot development, and it does it excellently that you can tell it matters. The problem is with a lot of people in action movies is they have to act like if it doesn't have a quote-unquote brain and trying to be prestigious, it's stupid. But the level of which they are making this film shoves that in your fucking face. If you can't appreciate The Raid, you don't deserve to like action movies. The amount of love and care that goes into this martial arts movie is amazing. There are certain scenes that are boring dinner scenes between these gangsters, but he uses the full frame. You couldn't put this in pan and scan. You could never watch The Raid in pan and scan. It just wouldn't work. He uses the entire frame in both action sequences and non-action sequences. I saw this on a good screen with great projection. Try to see this with great projection because it's really very well shot and very well put together. This is over 2 hours and I was like, oh, is that going to get tiresome? Because I like the action sequences and sometimes stuff like that can feel tiresome. It didn't. It just felt thrilling. I wasn't thinking about the length to it. I had such a great time. I feel like this time of year I end up seeing a lot of movies like, it's okay, I don't know. But The Raid 2 restored my faith in action movies. And really, you know, I need to see everything Gareth Evans ever does. He has made me a complete fan by thrilling me and shocking me to my senses in a way that, like, I was worried, like, should I sneak in a coffee or buy a coffee at the concession stands? I didn't need it. This movie woke me the fuck up. And it should wake everybody up if they're making action movies. The level at which Gareth Evans and Iko Uwais are making this film is just amazing. And the level of villains they brought to this with the new mob boss, Bejo, played by Alex Adab, I think, and Yuko the son. The guy who played Yuko the son reminded me of Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, but he was so wonderfully evil. And they were just like such perfect villains. And he does things in such extremes, but they work so well with an action movie. This is the modern great action director. Gareth Evans is bringing it better than anyone who's trying to make intelligent action films and smarter action films and action films that are concerned with taking on too much and doing things they never should and trying to do fights they could never ever film. Gareth Evans can do that so well, and he's a great genre action director in a way that I can't see anyone else doing. He cares about this genre so much, and you can see it through this film. I really love The Raid 2. I came out just buzzing, and I think if you love action films, if you love martial arts films, or if you just want to see a bunch of people's heads get bashed in and arms twisted and broken off and cut with crazy swords and machetes and have a girl with hammers fight a ton of people on a train, and all the amazing action sequences that can behold in The Raid 2, then you need to see this movie. So if you have seen The Raid 2 and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.